everybody, this is Nimrod from the Audio Couple and welcome to our channel. Today we're doing actually quite an exciting review of this Klipsch loudspeaker system, and of course this loudspeaker system is part of the Heritage range, and the Heritage range, the 6s, is actually a top of the wireless Heritage range. Further to this, the loudspeaker is in a nice walnut color, and you also get it in a nice ebony color, or let's call it my black color. And then further to that, this loudspeaker is actually a stereo pair, and where we're only actually looking at the right hand channel, and the right hand channel actually contains all the controls. Regarding the controls, you've got a dedicated on off switch, you've got an input selector, and then of course a volume control on the loudspeaker. This volume control of course controls both of these two loudspeakers, and all of these controls are available via wireless remote control. Further to this, these loudspeakers are quite powerful. They contain two 100 watt amplifiers. Then further to this, the loudspeaker is around 220 millimeters wide, 270 millimeters deep, and then about 425 millimeters high. Further to this, it actually uses a titanium dome tweeter, but of course this dome tweeter, titanium dome tweeter, is actually horn loaded with this proprietary Klipsch horn, which projects the sound quite well. And then it's also got a Klipsch proprietary, or their own woofer, let's say a 6.5 inch woofer. And these two loudspeakers complement each other quite well, and they actually produce excellent sound. Yeah, so I think it's a feature of the loudspeaker is actually that these loudspeakers are more suited for desktops. So I don't really recommend you actually put it on a stand, but you can actually do that. But you'll notice that the loudspeaker is slanted a little bit more to the back, which actually helps with the projection. And then of course, if you mount it on a desktop like we've done, or this equipment rack, it helps to project the sound, and for me it also rounds off the actual loudspeaker. It looks quite neat. Yeah, so I think it rounds off the speaker in this slanted way. It actually looks quite nice and snazzy from the front and from the sides actually. Yeah, so a little bit more about my installations. Look, I think what we've done is we were quite fortunate the day that I actually decided to unpack the loudspeakers and just have a first listen, initial listen. I actually installed them exactly as they are now. So the one loudspeaker on this side of the cabinet, and the other one on that extreme side of the cabinet. Yeah, so this cabinet is about 500 millimeters from the floor, and the actual loudspeaker is about 700 millimeters from the rear wall, and the two loudspeakers is around 1.5 meters, just over 1.5 meters apart, and then they're around 2.7 meters away from the actual listening position. And I must say, and the reason why I'm actually giving you guys these dimensions is because we achieved excellent results from these loudspeakers, regarding the sound quality. It was very balanced, but yet quite involving. But we'll spend talking about the actual sonics of the loudspeakers in a while, but before we start talking about the sonics, I would just like to share with you more about the functionality of the loudspeaker, or actually the connectivity. Yeah, so we actually have a view of the backside of the right hand channel loudspeaker, and this loudspeaker actually contains all the functionality regarding inputs, etc. So what type of inputs does it have? I think the very first input that I'd like to highlight is that it actually can take a turntable directly, a moving magnet type input, of course high level moving magnet input, and you just adjust these RCAs either for a line input, so you can actually connect a CD player or any other line level type of input to the loudspeakers. For instance, if you have a DAC and it only supports line level outputs, then you can actually also input your DAC on the RCA, the two stereo RCA inputs, and you just adjust the switch to the line inputs. But then if you adjust it over to the phono input, you actually connect your turntable directly to the phono inputs, and then of course it also got a ground connector where you actually connect the ground for your turntable to ensure that there's no hum. Further to that, which is quite exciting of course, is the Bluetooth input, and this Bluetooth easily pair with any type of phone. Yeah, so I used my Samsung S10 and I paired the Bluetooth connection with the loudspeaker, and then of course I play back some music content via Tidal and also via Spotify. Both of these equally worked very well, and I achieved excellent results even from Bluetooth, you know. And I'm a type of guy that prefer the best actual connection to these loudspeakers, but in this case the Bluetooth actually produced excellent results to such a degree that I sometimes thought, oh, but you know, is there really wires required to these loudspeakers? But anyway, the Bluetooth functionality is there, and of course it's quite flexible. Then it's also got a USB input, so you can connect your laptop or your computer directly to the loudspeakers. So the USB input actually produced the best sonics in my opinion, and we achieved actually quite astonishing levels of fidelity on these loudspeakers. Okay, so then further to that, it's also got a digital input, so it's an optical digital input, SPDIF, but optical, and yeah, I haven't tested that input, but I'm sure it works fine. And they actually also supply the digital or optical cable together with a few other connectors as well. For instance, they supply the USB input. Then they also supply a mini jack cable, so you can also use the auxiliary in as a stereo mini jack input if you want to connect your smartphones. Let's say from your headphone on your smartphone, you can actually go directly into the auxiliary input as well. Or if you've got some MP3 playback system or any other playback system that has got a line level but in a mini jack format, stereo format. Further to that, then you've got actually one output, and that one output is for a subwoofer, and it's your normal RCA, let's call it my line level subwoofer output. That of course can be adjusted on the remote independently from the main volume. We haven't tested that because the loudspeaker actually produced quite a full and rich sound, but I never actually needed the subwoofer because the sound was quite rich in my opinion, and quite detailed. So I didn't really see the need for the subwoofer in my setup, but of course you're welcome to connect any subwoofer to this speaker system. And I can also maybe mention that the loudspeakers are actually, let's call it labeled. This specific loudspeaker should be on the right hand side, and then it's got a, let's call it umbilical cord to the other side, the left speaker. So you actually have to, you know, have the setup correct. This loudspeaker always on the right hand side, the main loudspeaker with all the controls in it, but then it's got an umbilical cord to the other loudspeaker that will supply, of course, a signal and then power for the amplification that is situated in that loudspeaker on that side. Yeah, and then finally you only have to power actually the right hand channel loudspeaker with 220 or AC voltage supply. And this loudspeaker is pre or factory setup for our local power, and of course this is 220 to 240 volts AC. Yeah, so now we actually come to the more interesting part for me, and that's the actual performance of these loudspeakers. I first think that I should highlight that these loudspeakers are extremely versatile. You know, for instance, the Bluetooth connectivity, the excellent power amplification that is contained within these loudspeakers. Further to that, it's got a very good DAC. I'm not too sure, you know, who's the DAC that they're using, but the quality that we're getting from the USB and the Bluetooth inputs are just excellent. You know, it is very good. And then the overall voicing of the loudspeaker. So I'm sure that they've implemented some DSP inside the loudspeaker, you know, to ensure that it's got a good performance in a home environment. But I must actually congratulate the team responsible for voicing these loudspeakers. They're very similar to my big loudspeakers in my home, very similar type of voicing, you know, the overall sound signature. And remember, I play these big loudspeakers of mine via valve amplification. But these loudspeakers, of course, use a solid state, but the way that they were voiced, the actual overall, the integration of the various inputs, and then of course the amplification together with, I'm sure, some DSP containing within the loudspeaker, the actual overall setup just produced such a nice and rich sound that we end up listening very extensive sessions. You know, myself and Teresa, we would say to ourselves, okay, let's just quickly have a quick listen to the loudspeakers, but then we end up 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours later, you know, switching the system off and we enjoyed it thoroughly. And together with that, we also tested the phonostage, the phonostage input with our Audio-Technica cartridge, 803600, and it also produced excellent results. So whenever we actually connect something to these loudspeakers, the loudspeakers remain common, and what I mean by that is that I think they are the actual component that ensures good performance. And I'm actually not this type of person that would say have your own built-in amplification. I prefer external amplification, because you can actually then achieve better results, in a sense, is that you can actually deploy better and better amplifiers as your budget allow. But in this case, I think it is a well-rounded product. I think excellent input capabilities, so it's quite versatile, together with the actual integration of the power amplification module inside, the DAC that it's got, the DSP function, and then the integration of the tweeter and the mid-bass driver. It produced just very good sound, and the sound has actually got the bass sounds very natural, like you would get from valve amplifications. And you'll hear a lot of people will say that the bass from a valve amplifier is just so it sounds more real and realistic, but authentic, I think, is the word that I'd like to use. So these loudspeakers, the bass and this bass driver, you can clearly judge that they use a very lightweight material for the bass driver, and the bass is quite quick, but still, I think realistic and authentic. It sounds like a real drum, and it's got that normal decay to instruments, but yet it retains in voices, especially male voices, that warmth of male voices, and the overall sound signature is just very pleasant. And they can actually play quite loud as well, but even late night listening at lower levels, they've got a full sound to it. So very good and well done, to Klipsch. I think this is an excellent product, and for that reason, myself and Teresa, the audio couple, will bestow our excellence, reward of excellence, to these loudspeakers, because for us it's just an outstanding product. It's versatile. It produced excellent audio qualities, and then the actual look and feel of the loudspeaker is just excellent. And this walnut, I'm actually glad that we actually got the walnut finish for our review product, because it's quite I would say snazzy for me. It's got this retro but yet modern way of presenting the loudspeaker, and I think aesthetically wise, you can integrate it into any type of home decor. Quite a nice looking loudspeaker. So I'm very fond of these, and I think for people out there, it will make an excellent Christmas gift. And welcome, Teresa. I like this feature of this audio couple channel of ours. All of a sudden, Teresa will appear, and we can actually have a nice conversation. And typically when Teresa is next to me, it feels like we're actually listening to music, and then of course the passion starts flowing. So, but anyway, guys, I think what I said previously, that I think these loudspeakers will make an excellent Christmas gift. I actually stand by that. Yes, I think it's a well-rounded product, excellent product. Really, from a sound perspective, it actually reminds you of those older days before televisions, when you can just actually spend the whole night listening to music. And that's what happened to us. We started playing music, and then we played older music, more, let's call it more vintage music, classical music that we grew up with. Then we moved over to some modern music, and everything just sounded very good. And then, of course, we also played a few records, and they all were actually reproduced quite well. It was excellent results. And then even if you just want to quickly connect your phone to it, pair the phone Bluetooth wise, even that produced excellent results. We were actually amazed at the actual sound that you can reproduce. And when I say that they've got similar sounds to these big loudspeakers of mine, the Dantec Sovereigns, I think it's really a compliment to these loudspeakers. And again, I would like to reiterate that I congratulate the Klipsch team responsible for voicing these loudspeakers. Excellent sound quality, very balanced but warm. So I would say they're slightly warm to from neutral, but still it gives you a pleasant sound, and that's what's nice about it. But still, even your most hardened audiophile, I think, will be happy with these loudspeakers. And that's what I say is, you can implement it in various areas within your home, and they're also aesthetically pleasing. So that's why I say a versatile and very well-rounded product, etc. And then, like I say, we also get it in the black or the ebony color, but this walnut color, I must say, it's quite nice. And then with the copper inlay. And then lastly, maybe I can also talk. I see the remote there. Remote control also works very well. And efficient, and everything about it just worked well. You know, it's a no hassle type of product. Like for instance, the day when it arrived here, within 5 minutes I was up and going, and I could pair my phone with it, my Samsung S10, and I played a few Tidal tracks, and immediately I had sound, an excellent sound in our room over here. So these loudspeakers definitely I recommend not too close to the rear walls. In this instance they were about 700 millimeters away from the rear walls, and about, like I stated, about half a meter off the ground, and then they just produce excellent results. And it was about 1.5, maybe about closer to 1.6 meters apart, but of course I don't think the distance apart will make a big difference, but for sure the distance to the rear walls. Yeah, and then you can also consult the scorecard, and you'll notice across the board I've given these loudspeakers a 9 because of their excellent sonics and performance. They really, guys, it is. I've said it maybe before in other reviews, but these ones, because of the score, I mean 9 across the board, except for the tops. The tops sometimes it depends on the type of music that you're listening, can sound sometimes a bit. Let's say bright, not harsh. They've actually never sounded harsh, these loudspeakers. Like I say, well rounded, and the actual sound signatures of these loudspeakers are excellent. But depending on the type of music that you play, or maybe the quality of the recording, the tops can sometimes sound a bit bright. But it's not because that the tweeter runs away from the woofer. It's more about the actual I would say more the music content. You know, if it's slightly bright, I can strongly recommend them. And like I say, I think they'll make an excellent Christmas gift. You know, for the person in your life that enjoys music, or if you enjoy music, you can always share music. And that's music is that gift that keeps on giving. So yeah, in that aspect, it makes it for a good gift. But guys, I think that's it. Yeah, I think this time around you're welcome to consult with me on the channel. It's always nice for me to engage with people. So if you have different questions about these loudspeakers, etc., you're welcome to ask. But like I say, it's our certification of excellence on these loudspeakers. And also, actually, I'll give them Innovation Award. And the reason for that being is they've taken various aspects and combined it, in a complete product. And this complete product is, it's better than the sum of its parts. So, a very good product from Klipsch, and well done to Klipsch on these loudspeakers. They call these loudspeakers the 6s, and of course, it's a stereo desktop loudspeakers and active loudspeakers, and of course wireless. But guys, that's us then, the audio couple, Nimrod and Teresa, signing off. If you like our videos, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more of our videos, please subscribe, and if you want notifications, hit the bell. Signing off. Cheers.